Hello, welcome to Coffee, Love, and Books. I'm Michelle, and today I'm going to be taking y'all through my bookcase. I'm so excited to do this. I can't even, I'm really excited to just show you guys what I've got in my bookcase and expand my bookcase later on, because I don't have a ton of books, which is good for the length of this video because I tend to ramble, but I will try to keep this short and concise for each book. And I'm actually keep some of my books back here, so I'm going to take you guys through these first and then go through the ones in my bedroom, and this should be fun. Alright, well, let's get going. So starting off on the kind of bookcase thing I have behind where I film, I just tried to kind of get representation for a lot of different genres in this particular spot. So I'm just going to take you guys through here book by book. Alright, so the first one I have is The Two Towers, and it's very ripped up and all that, but I've been referencing it a lot in my videos, so I just keep it back here for convenience. And next I have The Giver a little bit, and it was out here just to give a visual reference in my videos, but it also represents the dystopia genre, and also I just love this book. Next I have A Fault in Our Stars, which it represents the contemporaries and John Green, whom I love, and yeah, that's one of the few contemporaries I own. And the next one is The High King by Lloyd Alexander. I really appreciate the Prydain Chronicles, and I think they deserve a little more of a spot in the conversation when talking about fantasy. I listened to this entire series on audiobook a few years ago, and I loved it, and it's very good if you just want to, like, I don't know, shorter or easier to read book for your trip into fantasy. Next I have Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. I haven't read this one yet. I started it, but I didn't finish it, and I plan to read it again after I finish Emma. So be looking forward to that. Then I have The Silmarillion. I think this was also here to just be a prettier reference to The Lord of the Rings, but it's here. I haven't read it. Let's see if I do read it, because I'm a little bit nervous. Next, I have a book I most certainly have never read, nor do I really know why it's here. It's called The Moral Compass. I don't know. Maybe it just needed a home and I put it up here. And I have Phantom of the Opera, which I'm reading this month, so that should be really exciting. And then I have The Silver Chair, which is my favorite book from the Narnia series. I absolutely adore this series, mainly for the nostalgia, but I, it deserved a place on the shelf. And it's just, it's so good. Next, I have The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis. Just another Narnia representation, and just here because I love Narnia. First off, I have my series on the top shelf. I didn't really set these aside by genre. I do at the bottom, but these I just wanted to keep my series together because it looks so pretty. And I have a few stragglers at the end. And then down here I have my classics, and then my nonfiction, and then my historical fiction, and a few contemporaries and random stragglers, but it's mainly historical fiction in this general area. And yeah, that's basically it for explaining the bookshelf. So I'm gonna start up here. Is this book that I absolutely adore. It is just bedrooms and, like, I guess it's kind of Victorian, more old-fashioned, and I love that kind of stuff. With book 4 of Harry Potter, I don't own all the Harry Potter books. Believe me, I wish I did, but I got this one for free at a thrift store. It was awesome. This may very well be my favorite Harry Potter book. I'm not 100% on what mine is, but I absolutely adore this one, and I look forward to rereading it. Next, I have probably my second favorite Harry Potter book, maybe, I don't know. It's The Deathly Hallows. This came about when I think I may have been sick and couldn't go to our library's sale. I asked my parents to get me anything Harry Potter, and they got me this, and I was like, okay, I have to finish the whole series in a flash so I get to read it. So that's why that's here. Moving on to the next one, this little book I also got from our library's book sale. I think it's for charity. People bring in their old books, and then they have this sale at the very end where you can get a whole box of books for $10. And this book is just like an illustrated guide to the Twilight series. And I really enjoyed reading this because Stephenie Meyer knows so much about her character's backstory and so much about her world. And I adore this book, and because it's fascinating. And it has like the Twilight universe without a lot of the flaws that the series has. Next, I have the Divergent series. Man, am I so proud to have, that was really pointless, but I'm so proud to have this series, just all in one. They're not all the same edition, but you know, it's fine. And I have all three, even though I don't really love Allegiant that much. I love the very, one decision that the author made in that book, but looking back, it wasn't as great as I thought it was, but I did really enjoy this series, and it is my dystopia on the shelf. Well, there's also this, but we'll get to that later. And, man, I love seeing this on my shelf. It's fantastic. And moving right along to my Francine Rivers section, I just have Redeeming Love and then the Mark of the Lion series, all of which are historical fiction, Christian, keyword things. And then I have my Hunger Games series. It brings such aesthetic to the shelf. I don't think you can beat covers like these. They're just so pretty. Next, I have, what's it called? The White Pine Chronicles by Hilda Stahl, who writes a few of these books on this shelf. I used to have a few more by her, but they were younger, so I gave them to my sisters. This series it's very repetitive, but it has certain really sweet aspects to it, and I enjoyed it when I read it. I may reread it, probably won't, but I did really enjoy it back in the day. The Boning Knife I did not finish. I started reading it in the car, which is a bad option for me, but also it was a contemporary that followed like a 50-year-old woman, and I wasn't feeling it. But maybe one day I will go back to that one. Tilly is a book that I really suggest people read. It's so sweet and impactful and sad and heart-wrenching, and just such a great book about the experience of this married couple who had an abortion. And I find this book just so sweet, and it's a small one, and I would love to reread it very soon. Okay, the next one I have is this volume from the Christy Miller series. This is a series I read when I was younger, and I still continue to read. I would really suggest it for any teenage girl. It's about a girl named Christy, and you get to see her growing up and just experience things that teenage girls experience, and it really is a good book for setting standards and just finding who you truly are in your teenage years. And it goes on, so you get to grow up with Christy, and it's the best. Okay, now we're on the second shelf. Like I said before, these are my classics. First, I have the volume you have seen so many times on this channel, Jane Austen. I technically have this out reading Emma right now, but it belongs here, so I put it back for the purposes of this video. And then I have the back of the North Wind, which, let me take a hot sec to talk about this book because it is so good. It's somewhat like Tilly, where it takes a very sweet and whimsical approach to exploring something very sad and heartbreaking. And man, it's just so good. I can't even really talk about it like without spoiling anything. But it's basically about a boy who is like about 10 years old, and he keeps meeting this woman who is the North Wind. And I'll leave it there. It's so good, and kind of belongs with like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, since Lewis was very inspired by George MacDonald's work. And I love it. Next, I have Peter Pan, which is such a favorite of mine as far as classics go. It's I'm just gonna leave it there. You know what Peter Pan's about. Oh my word, I cannot get these books back into the bookcase. Okay, next I have Tale of Two Cities, and after that I have the collection of Edgar Allan Poe. I really enjoy this. It's fascinating. I love this copy. Stole it from my dad. Probably should give it back. And next, after that, I have Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. I don't think I've read Alice in Wonderland, but I have read most of Through the Looking Glass. Again, very whimsical, very just fantastic books by Lewis Carroll. Next, I have the one, the only Pride and Prejudice. This is the copy I read back in the day. I also have a copy in the collection. And yes. After that, I have Little Women. I've read about half of Little Women, and I thought it was the whole thing back in the day, but it wasn't, so sorry. But I need to finish that book at one point. Next, I have Uncle Tom's Cabin, which I have not read yet. I plan on doing it. I promise one day I will. It seems very daunting by this whole copy binding thing, but I will do it. After that, I have Jane Eyre, which I read this far into, which you can tell because I have a sticky note there. I gave up on it, even though I did like it. It was daunting for one of my first classics to read. And now we're into our non-fictions, which I actually have quite a few of. First one I have is Hiding Place, which is a fantastic book. I totally recommend it. And then I have Anywhere Faith, which I don't think I've finished yet, but I'm very close. I'm like on the last few chapters. And then I have Evidence Not Seen. It's about these missionaries. I think something with the Holocaust, or actually just World War II war crimes, fits in with this. And I have not finished it yet, but I did enjoy what I had read. A Thousand Gifts. Very whimsical writing. Very hard to understand. I started this a few years ago. I didn't really finish it, but it was quite good and it was quite effective. After that, I have Rachel's Tears, which is my favorite nonfiction ever. It's about Rachel Joy Scott, who was the first victim in the Columbine shootings. Her life is just so inspiring, and I loved reading about her. After that, I have More Than a Carpenter, which I read in 7th grade. It's so good for theology and for just understanding your faith and understanding the historical relevance of Jesus, and I love it. After that, I have The Story of the World in 6 Glasses, which I read for history class. It's really good and really has an interesting spin on history, and I would totally recommend it. And after that, I have my historical fictions. I have Ahab's Bride and Hannah Rose, which are a kind of spin-off of Moby Dick, and I stopped reading at Ahab's Bride. 1, because it was just really whack, and 2, because it was kind of inappropriate and I wanted to wait until a later date to actually read it. Next, I have The Eight Ebb Tide by Beverly Lewis, who is a fantastic writer about Amish society and the struggles a lot of Amish go through. And I've read a lot of her work. I have not finished this one, but I need to. And I will one day. What Would Jesus Do is just a lovely book with absolutely gorgeous illustrations that I absolutely adored when I was little. And it's just fantastic and I love it. I have a random travel journal. A few of these Prairie River books I haven't read. They're like middle grades. Then I was obsessed with this book. You can just tell I love books by them being so ripped up, and I loved this one. It was so fascinating to me, and just all the animal wildlife craze stories were, I loved it when I was young. Next I have, Robin Jones Gunn books are apparently not together on my bookshelf. Sorry. This is Sunsets. It's a very good book from another spin-off series of Christy Miller. The Grandma's Attic book. I love that series. Then I have The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. I was in that play. It was so fun. Next I have this book called A Quest for a Maid, which is a historical fiction about, about Scotland and witches and just all that stuff. Then I have Journey to America, The Sherwood Ring, which is the best, and A House on Honeysuckle Lane, which I have not read. And I realized I forgot to do the stuff over here. Just a few random folders and stuff I wrote and all that. Okay. So that was my bookcase tour. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I put out new content every Saturday, so I will look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Bye!